Ginger Timms, co-owner of Village Point Market, was diagnosed with stage 4 peritoneal carcinomatosis just last year, after discovering she had a subtype of cancer called low-grade serous that made the chemotherapy ineffective. Doctors estimated she had 8 to 24 weeks to live.
I was educated at that point that there is, in fact, November of last year, there was no chemotherapy drug, nor hormonal therapy or immunotherapy that was working at that time, and there was no clinical trials, which basically meant I was left on my own and to do with what I could. The diagnosis was very grim, very unexpected. And being a positive person like I am, I just wasn't going to accept any of that.
Changing her diet completely overnight, Timms cut out all the foods that made her body acidic. According to Timms' research online, cancer grows in acidic environments, and by making her body more alkaline with foods like kale, turkey, and avocados, she was able to suppress the tumor growth.
As my body was so acidic from my behavior and my lifestyle patterns, that if I could get the acid out of my body, the acidicness out of my body, and turn it into an alkaline style body, the cancer couldn't grow. At least that was my theory. Now, so far so good, theory's working, because the sign of those cancer cells are almost diminished.
Subsequent blood tests proved she was onto something.
A cancer antigen test that I was given, and it's called CA125, and it's the best for postmenopausal women because it gives a lot of false positives in premenopausal women. But for mine, since it was ovarian cancer, that was the test they gave me. It's a simple blood test. The normal range is 0 to 38 as a count of the test. The day of surgery, mine was 1,025. So being the high achiever that I was, it didn't help me a whole lot that day. But by February 28th, based on everything that I did, without any chemotherapy and any radiation and any immunotherapy, and basically just all good, healthy food and nutrients and supplements, my CA125 in February was down to 38.9. In May, it was down to 29.8, and in September, it was down to 24.7.
Dr. Richard Babut, East Carolina University's chair and professor of the Department of Nutrition Sciences, said that sodium is one of the biggest culprits in facilitating chronic diseases such as cancer.
Asian cultures, which consume up to about 20 grams of sodium a day, whereas the United States probably 10 to 15, still a lot of sodium, too much, recommended about 5 or less grams a day. The Asian cultures that consume the most sodium also have the highest incidence of stomach cancer as well.
With cancer ranking in as the second leading cause of death in the U.S., Babut warns those living unhealthy lives that chronic diseases can be lurking in the shadows.
And the chronic diseases creep up on you. You can't see them, and you can't see the adverse effects. If you don't work out or you don't exercise this week, and maybe you don't exercise next week or the next week, you're probably not going to see much effect. But over about 5 or 10 years, then you'll start seeing the effects. And because it's gradual, it's like a boiling frog. You don't realize you're boiling until all of a sudden it kills you.
Jeff Charles, also known as the voice of Pirate football, was diagnosed with cancer for a second time in March 2015, this time in his lungs. After battling with his oncologist over the refusal of chemotherapy, Charles decided he too wanted to take a more natural approach to the illness with mistletoe therapy.
And I said, where do you think I am with this thing? Let's put the cards on the table. What's in the future? What's down the road, do you think? And my oncologist kind of shrugged his shoulders and says, well, you're just going to continue to get more tumors. Which I was like, there's nothing you can do? I mean, that's your attitude? And so that was my light bulb moment. And I said, this isn't working, and I'm going to try something else.
According to his research, Charles said the drug has natural properties for boosting the immune system and stopping cancer cells from entering the bloodstream. In Europe, where it's been widely used for 100 years, has saved thousands of lives.
It's a wonderful drug. It's wonderful. It's all natural. And one reason we don't know a whole lot about it, or a lot of reasons, one reason we don't know a whole lot about it is it is a fraction of the cost of chemotherapy. And chemotherapy in this country is a $200 billion a year industry. And so this is effective, and it's much less the cost. And what is amazing to me is when you started to research this, and how in this country we know virtually nothing about it. 99% of people in America have never heard of mistletoe therapy.
For those going through a similar scenario, Tim said to have hope and to never be afraid of taking your health into your own hands.
I think the most important part is not to give up. And I'm going to go back to that, because had I given up and just accepted that diagnosis, I don't think I'd be here today to share some of the good things that I can share.
Clinical trials for mistletoe therapy are currently being held at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore, Maryland, and will require millions of dollars in donations to help fund its research. For those that want to help, Charles recommends checking out this website.
Go to believebig.org. They can give you all the information regarding this clinical trial research, how you can get involved in it, if you'd like to make a donation to it. They have fundraising events all year, and it's a wonderful cause with a wonderful lady, Evelise Page, who was taken a diagnosis with cancer 8 or 9 years ago now, and turned that into helping thousands of people.
This is Madison Lawson with Tech Video.